A very good evening to all of you. It's wonderful meeting you all again on the IATD Book Club this evening. So, thank you all for joining in. So, I will be introducing a wonderful person today who is going to take us through his journey with one of his favorite books. We have Mr. Rajendra Kumar who has joined us today. So I will speak a few words about him. So before we go into that, for people who have joined in for the first time, I am Vaidishwaran Vedigiri. I am the founder and principal learning consultant at Vylearn, and I am extremely happy to be hosting this edition of the IATD Book Club. So let us look at our speaker for the day. So it gives me immense pleasure to introduce Mr. Rajendra Kumar to all of you. So, Mr. Rajendra Kumar is a dynamic communicator in English, Tamil, Hindi, and Telugu. He is a motivational speaker, a possibility thinker, and a very passionate life skills trainer and a certified life coach. He is a postgraduate in mathematics and he has a very analytical mind because of this, and he has over 3 decades of experience in sales and marketing in various industries like IT, automobiles, publishing, education, and in training. Mr. Raj is a certified trainer from IATD and a certified life coach from the Academy of Modern Applied Psychology. And he has trained thousands of people, starting from the junior level right up to the senior levels. His specialty is in creativity, communication skills, and emotional stability. Now we have a different side of Mr. Raj as well. So he is a very passionate music and a dance enthusiast, and he listens to a lot of forms of music, and he is especially enamored by the beauty of Indian classical music. In fact, he hosts 2 blogs dedicated to the music of Ilayaraja, and he also runs a Facebook on. He runs a group on Facebook where he writes regularly about the nuances and intricacies of the classical elements of Ilayaraja's music. In fact, he also conducts sessions on Ilayaraja's music on Zoom on a regular basis. He is, of course, a voracious book reader, and his interests include history, literature, nature, the environment, music, and films, among many other things. He is equally passionate about Tamil literature, starting right from the ancient Sangam literature right up to the works of Kannadasan. He is a lifelong learner and loves sharing what he learns with others, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are here today. We are going to listen to Mr. Raj talk about one of his favorite books, and which also reflects on one of his passions. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Raj to take over the platform and enlighten us on this beautiful evening. Mr. Raj, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vaidi. Yes, whenever I listen to listen things about me, I feel more humbled because as you said, you mentioned I'm a lifelong learner, so I would first put myself as a learner. And yes, one of my favorite books, because I have a lot of favorites, but I chose this for a multiple reasons. And let me get on with that. Of course, one is music. Apart from that, when I read this, many things struck me. Now, there is a beautiful couplet written more than 2000 years ago in Tamil. People are very familiar with that name. And this couplet goes something like this. தோன்றி புகழோடு தோன்றுக அக்திலார் தோன்றலில் தோன்றாமை நன்று. 1.5 lines written by that great poet called Thiruvalluvar. This is of course part of Tirukkural. There are some loose interpretations as well. Tondral in Tamil also means birth. So some people, I've read such interpretations, they say you have to be born with fame. Otherwise, it's better that you're not born. That's actually a kind of, as I said, a very loose translation. Tondral also means appear. So, where does one appear? On the center stage. So, the interpretation, the right kind of interpretation, according to me, is when you occupy center stage, when you are an expert in something, you must really be an expert rather than saying it fame, because fame is subjective, especially these times when the number of likes and number of followers determine fame. That's of course absolutely false. Now, so if we get on with this Tirukkural, again, let me also tell you why I started with this. Somebody who's a genius, I would say who is, yes. I'll clarify why. Voice that has captivated millions of people, cognoscenti and common man. Your voice, which reverberates every morning, at least in a majority of households in South India and in North India as well. The voice which wakes up the Lord, who hardly sleeps. He just sleeps for 3-4 hours. Of course, Lord sleeping is symbolic, but I'm sure you all can associate with what I'm saying. The sacred hills called Tirumala, where the Lord is woken up with this voice, which reverberates in that hills and echoes around. Even now, even if somebody is not listening to that music now, it will be ringing in their ears if they are passionate about music, definitely, and music, dramatic music. Again, let us not box it. I will say music and this name go together. Madurai Shanmuga Vadivu Subbulakshmi. Subbulakshmi, sorry. A person, a genius, par excellence. And many biographies have been written on her. According to me, as far as I know, at least 11, 12 written by even a famous dancer and then some scholars, historians, so many people. And honestly, I only read reviews of some of those, not the book as such. And when I read the review of this book in the Hindu long ago, say about 6-7 months ago, I decided that I must get this. So, of gifted voice. There is a danger in writing about very famous people's legends. What is the danger? One can easily fall into a trap. What kind of trap? It'll be a kind of fanboyism where the person just praises that legend. Facts, many facts we all know, and keeps praising. There are also devil's advocates who take out only the other side, if one can say, the darker side of geniuses. But Mr. Keshav Desiraju, the author, according to me, has done great justice. Why? because it's an objective view of that legend called MS Subbulakshmi. It is, of course, it's not that he has not praised her, because can there be anybody who doesn't like her voice or doesn't praise her? But a balanced view. And just a brief introduction about the author. Keshav Desiraju was a civil servant and studied in universities like Bombay and then Harvard as well. Scholar. He's written one book which was actually published by one of the companies I was working for, the publishing company, Oxford University Press. And unfortunately, he died last year. Just before I bought this book, say about a month before I bought this book, just last year. And one of his ambitions, he would say, was to write about Tyagaraja, Saint Tyagaraja, and he wanted to fine-tune his Telugu. Going by his name, I think his mother tongue is Telugu, but he wanted to fine-tune. And that defines great people, because great people always continue to learn, just like this person who we are going to talk about. Now, what attracted me in this book? Many things, of course. One, I mentioned about an objective view, taking an objective view. Number two, details. Because, again, the danger. When you write about a legend, you cannot misquote, you cannot give false information, because not only will it not do justice to that person, again, it is, I would say, blasphemous to give wrong information about legends. And the kind of research he has done, the kind of research which is mind-boggling. I will actually run through the glossary later, just towards the end. But each and everything is so organized. There are actually two different glossaries. And one gives the names, then the even the details of the songs, of course, briefly about the composers. So people who are not exposed to Carnatic music can also read this book. This is not a book meant just for people who appreciate Carnatic music. People who have not been exposed to Carnatic music can definitely read this book and get a lot of information. According to me, being a life skills trainer, I got a lot of inputs with regard to life skills. Now, apart from the details, now I would place his analysis, or rather his write-up, his book on this legend under 4 different categories. Number 1, identity. Who was MS? We all know she was a great, great, great singer. But was she really happy? I'm not being judgmental. I'll leave it at that. I will come back to that in a while. Number 2, apart from identity, it also raises a lot of questions. It raises a lot of questions in the reader's mind. And that is what a book should do. Any good book should raise a lot of questions in the minds of the reader, and how that reader interprets and also answers the questions, tries to find answers to questions. And number 3 is a kind of, well, many unknown facts, because even as a trainer, I'm sure there are many trainers here. When anybody attends our sessions, the trainees should come with a mindset as to, with a mindset that they should know, they should be asking as to what is in it for me. What is in it for me? I know everything. Okay, I know this, I know that. Say, for example, if it's communication, I know communication. what is it? What is there in it for me? What is the new information and how I can apply? So here, MS Subbulakshmi, I said at least 12 different biographies, but now this is special because it gives a lot of unknown facts about which I will definitely talk about. And also, it gives a neutral view of her style of presentation. Whether one would agree or disagree, it's up to us. But again, it gives a neutral view about her style of presentation. Well, I'm not sure how many are exposed to classical music here, but let me just take a brief, let me give a brief outline about the structure of this book. I said details. So it starts from the history of Carnatic music, brief history of Carnatic music, and then it goes to the Devadasi system. Devadasi, many people think is a bad word. Still, many people, it's not a bad word at all. I'm not here to talk about Devadasis because being a person who's been exposed to, say, classical dance, and also being a person who has read a lot about Devadasis, it's absolutely not a bad word. And I don't know how many people know MS Subbulakshmi was born in that community. Devadasis, the system as such, Devadasi, Deva, God, Dasi is not servant, but one who serves. Actually, all of us serve the divine. So they're very, very special. Later on, after 10th century, entire thing changed. And that is when the slide happened. Now, he talks about that. What exactly was the system all about? And what why these Devadasis are being still not given that kind of respect. Then it talks about, the book talks about Madurai, a great temple city, where it goes to even history of Tamil literature, where it is said that even the Changam literature was born there, at least people used to meet there. So Madurai is actually the center of many things, and she was born there in a very small house. So until now, no MS there, only the Devadasi system, history of Carnatic music, history of music per se. Even it talks about Hindustani also, what is the difference, and how the so-called privileged class has usurped it. Well, again, let us not be judgmental, going by the book, because this is not the debate about anything upper caste, lower caste, anything, but this is what the book says. Then it talks about the early years of Subbulakshmi and how she met a gentleman called P.S. Sadasivam, and how one day she went along with him. He was already married. She went along with him to Madras, and after 4 or 5 years, when she got married, okay, that's personal life. But again, how she grew as a classical vocalist. It is also said that her early years were the best. One of the Carnatic musicians who I respect a lot, a rebel, but again controversial, but again talks a lot of sense according to me. So he would say that MS Subbulakshmi's music was pure before she went to Madras. Now, again, people who are not exposed to that Devadasi system, let me tell you that those days they used to practice, learn dance and become dancers. Apart from that, the male clan would get into music. A very, very, very famous Bharatanatyam dancer from that community was the great Bala Saraswati, and MS Subbulakshmi was friends with her the book talks about it. I'll come to that in a bit. So here, her mother was, of course, a musician, and how she grew and how she went to Madras, and then how she got into films. And then her peak years, according to the author, peak years were the 50s and 60s. And according to the author, right from 70s, she started probably not losing her voice, but again, the charm was getting slightly, it was getting lost. And then 80s, then 90s, then later on, once she won the Bharat Ratna, and the life as such. Now, with regard to her identity, from the book, of course, it's a well-known fact. People who are exposed to classical music, or people from yesteryears, know this fact that she was totally controlled by her husband, Sri Sadasivam, who would decide the song list as well. And what she should speak if she were to address a gathering in public after winning an award, what she would speak, and all kinds of coordination between the Sabha secretaries, Sabhas or organizations which organize music and dance. So everything was controlled by Sadasiva. So this person, a legend, genius par excellence, was it her real face, or was she hiding something? It gives an impression that she was an enigma. Just to quote what she said, this author has quoted, and one of the statements M.S. Subbulakshmi made was that she was condemned to fame. Condemned to fame. I was talking about fame in the beginning. Condemned to fame. So she is also on record saying many aspects in my life were better left unsaid. So what was this lady's identity? How did that be if the sponsor or this man had not entered her life? Would her music have remained, would it have been superior to what we all listen to now on record? Or would she not have come up at all? A kind of, in Tamil, there is a saying, lamp kept inside a pot. So lamp is glowing, but people cannot see. So without the help of this gentleman, would she have really come? Because there are examples of people who, despite having the talent, could not really shine. So what was the identity of this lady? And taking the other view, how did that be if only this person had not entered her life? The book raises the question, though subtly. It's up to the reader to interpret that. Apart from that, I said unknown facts. People who are exposed to classical music, Carnatic music, have heard this name, Madurai Mani Iyer. It's a great legend, known for his pure Shruti alignment and his Swara singing. Now, as per this book, M.S. Subbulakshmi and Madurai Mani Iyer were cousins. M.S. Subbulakshmi's father, she publicly, it seems she had said that it was somebody called Subramaniam in Madurai. I'm not getting into personal life, but again, one has to know, because this is out in the public, there is nothing right or wrong here. As I said, the community has been abused, So let us face facts. However, as per the author, her father was somebody called Pushpavanam, and he also had a daughter called Rajam, who had a beautiful voice. But she couldn't really shine. It was accepted fact that she had a beautiful voice, but she really couldn't. Now Pushpavanam, from the privileged class, I'm not getting into the community here, but from the privileged class, it seems once mentioned to his wife that Angayum Punnudam, which means there also it is a girl child. Because certain things those days, male bastion, so it was all accepted. Certain things were accepted. Wives had to be like this. Whatever the man did was justifiable. So not, and Pushpavanam's Pushpavanam's brother was Madurai Mani Iyer's father. So M.S. Subbulakshmi and Madurai Mani Iyer were cousins. In fact, at least as far as I'm concerned, a fact which was absolutely new. Only after reading this book did I come to know. Then there are also facts like this one is actually known to many people, but that fact I will come in a bit. But again, there are facts like her relationship with her co-artists like D.K. Patamal and M.L. Vasanta Kumari. It seems when M.L.V. passed away in 1990, Srimati M.S. Subbulakshmi was in Delhi. She was receiving an award. And just before she received the award, she got the news that M.L.V. had passed away. But still, she controlled everything and she sang, it seems. Then, one more unknown fact is her relationship with Ariyakudi Ramanuja Iyengar. Ariyakudi Ramanuja Iyengar, again, for people who are not exposed to Carnatic music, he set the platform. He said that what is called a Pantati for Carnatic music, what to sing, how to sing, the pattern in a typical concert. But again, it was not her fault. It was Mr. Arikudi's fault because he was too arrogant. Again, ladies being given that importance. So he was actually, it seems he was jealous of her, but she didn't mind that at all. When he passed away, it seems she wrote a beautiful, of course, probably Sadasivam definitely would have guided, but again, beautiful write-up about Sri Ariyakudi Ramanuja Iyengar, again a great legend. Then it seems she has learned some ghazals as well, and she has sung Mirza Ghalib's ghazals. Of course, her rendering of Tagore is known, well known, but again, so many aspects of that. And fact which everyone, especially people who are learning music and dance nowadays, should know, that she did not learn from records. She would visit the person and learn in person. It's a well-known fact that Sri Semangudi Srinivasa Iyer was her guru, one of her gurus. There are many gurus, so she would visit everyone and learn everything. And that reminds me, Semangudi Srinivasa Iyer, it seems, again a great legend in Carnatic music, it seems he heard her for the first time in 1934 in Kumbakonam Mahamakam. He heard that young girl sing and he was totally impressed with that. So there are also some many unknown facts, like her being at loggerheads with the Music Academy. Music Academy is supposedly the dominant sabha in Madras, in Chennai. And for 1 year, she actually boycotted Music Academy, and her involvement in Tamil Isai. Tamil Isai is the Tamil music. how she got involved. Of course, Kalki Krishnamurti was a family friend. Again, how it evolved, that her passion for Tamil compositions, how it evolved, and also some details I'm not giving, where she learned the pronunciation for Vishnu Sahasranamam and the Suprabhatam, and from whom she learned bhajans. She was known for her bhajans. So this book gives those details. Apart from that, it also gives her song list of many concerts. Well, people who are probably not exposed to Carnatic music might find it somewhat, might get put off looking at that. But again, I spoke about the glossary. So it gives, the glossary gives all those details. That is, if it's one kriti, what is the raga, who composed it, and what was special about that composer. So all these are given. And each chapter starts with a quote, with invariably a kriti, line from a kriti. Kriti is a composition in Carnatic music. So it starts from there, and it's absolutely relevant to what is being said in the chapter, in that chapter. It's a kind of organic growth that is starting, as he said, starting with the history of music, then M.S. Subbulakshmi as a child, M.S. Subbulakshmi as a teenager, and M.S. Subbulakshmi as a married woman after marrying her sponsor, and then her growth as a classical musician, her performance at the United Nations, which was supposedly one of the best, where she also sang a couple of compositions of Sri Rajaji. And one thing is, before that, the audience in the West knew Indian music as something given only by Pandit Ravi Shankar and company. It's a fact. That is only Hindustani music and instrumental. They thought that was Indian music. But again, M.S. Subbulakshmi, initially, it seems even in the United Nations, for half an hour, people did not pay attention. They were just wondering that, because that sound was totally new to them. Just imagine people from the West not exposed to something called Carnatic music, how they would have reacted. But what mesmerized them was that charm in that voice. And they all stayed put. And actually, I've also listened to the recordings on radio. So how they clap for one of her sangati. Sangati is a kind of elaboration of a line, and how they clap, even without knowing it is a sangati or without knowing it is something called neraval, etc. They clap. That is what music does to pure music does to people. Now, apart from that, what is so special, which attracted me so much, because I spoke about that person just now, was a conversation between Pandit Ravi Shankar and M.S. Subbulakshmi. After M.S. was conferred the Bharat Ratna, they were meeting, and it seems she tapped on his shoulders and said, "Next, you will be the next one to receive the award." And then they were talking about, M.S. Subbulakshmi was actually, it seems, saying about how the younger generation, those days, younger generation, 90s, how they would elaborate a raga. Just for 5 minutes, they'll be hiding that name raga. Raga is a melody. For people who are not exposed to music, raga is a kind of melody with different permutations, combinations of swaras. And one swara will change that raga. So why people do this? And for example, it seems he said there are two ragas, Kalyani and Latangi, two ragas in Carnatic music. So she spoke in Tamil, saying Kalyani ko, Latangi ko, Vidyasavala Deviyavilla. Pandit Ravi Shankar, it seems, replied, Dhaivat mein antar hai. Dhaivat is different, that is the dha. And M.S. Subbulakshmi, it seems, replied, Adeda. Well, the kind of this really gives a kind of amusement. But apart from that, when two musicians speak, there is no need for language. You don't need to know the language at all. Music is the language. Pandit Ravi Shankar understood what she was saying, Latangi and Kalyani, and she replied. So whether it is Adeda or Antar hai doesn't really matter. That's wonderful episode. I don't think it is found in any of the other biographies of M.S. Lakshmi's. Now, there is, I said, I will come to that in a bit, well-known fact, at least those days, about a relationship between her and a Carnatic, very well-known Carnatic musician, a very, very colorful personality, Sri G.N. Balasubramaniam. One of the biographies, rather indecently, even published some of her letters written to him. But this book touches that very subtly, very subtly. And also, it says that the family function of Sri G.N. Balasubramaniam was attended by Sri Sadasivam and Ms. Lakshmi. And it seems Sri Sadasivam said that here is a great gentleman. GNB is a great gentleman. So, a book which I would say is complete in many aspects, because there are a lot of new things, a lot of new learning. And if you go by that, so am I being a fanboy without criticize, without anything, just praising this book? No, there is a flip side, according to me. Number one, when it talks about the history of music, it doesn't talk about the history of Tamil music right from Sangam age, Sangam era. Since I have done some kind of a research on that, that was kind of, I think that was missing, because it starts only from the 11th or 12th century, what he has written. It's not that this person is not knowledgeable. Somehow that was neglected. Number two, giving the song list is fine, but wherever he mentions about one famous song, Badavare Mattaki, which is actually part of Chelapadigaram, he just says Tamil song. He doesn't even refer, not even one place, as of course he knows Silapadigaram. It seems that he knows Silapadigaram because he has given a translation from Silapadigaram of the description of Madurai, but it doesn't say that. And probably he talks about I said about the style. Now, people who know MS very well or listen to MS know that she repeated many songs, repeated. And he found that to be a kind of negative. Though in the end he says it's not negative, but the way it is structured. But when I flip through the song list, it's a huge list. So when somebody has this kind of repertoire, so if something is repeated, it's perfectly okay. And one more thing is, some people, not me, some people who are not exposed to music might find it difficult when he lists the song with that ragas. But again, for them, there is this glossary. So that is fine. But two things, and the third one a little bit, really could have been worked on. Let me end this review with a song from the old Hindi film, which goes something like this. Naam bhool jayega, chehra ए बदल जाएगा, मेरी आवाज ही पहचान है, sung by the great Lata Mangeshkar. People might forget the name. People might even, of course, my face will change, but my only identity is my voice. Well, according to me, as far as this lady is concerned, the word, the entire the MS, or just even forget Subbalakshmi, MS will remain as long as Carnatic music exists. So we will not forget MS. And that beautiful face with wonderful features with those two nose rings and jasmine flower and that famous MS blue sari can never be forgotten. And her voice, yes, which is that gifted voice, can will be reverberating as long as the earth goes around the sun. Thank you very much. This is the book, and this is the glossary I was talking about, which runs to nearly 150 pages. Different all kinds of notes. So people who are not even exposed to music or even MS Subbulakshmi can understand. Anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity. And also, one thing I must tell you, that in this world of WhatsApp universities and YouTube colleges, it's really a great initiative to start a book club and also make people review a physical book. And definitely that act of yours should be appreciated. And thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for that beautiful review, and I think you have brought in, I mean, a lot of new facts which were actually quite unknown to me as well, because I am actually from the music fraternity myself, and a lot of things were new to me. So I think it was a brilliant review, and as a musician, I've got a few things, but as a trainer, one of the things that I personally felt as a good takeaway is, if your intentions are pure, and if your thoughts are pure, and if your commitment to what you're doing is pure, you can resonate with any audience. I think that was a very good takeaway that I personally had from your explanation of the book. And of course, if I get into the ragas and song aspect of it, I will keep you here for another hour or two. So just a few points. I mean, when you talked about some of the songs being repeated by MS Subbulakshmi ji, I think for people who are also on the call, my thoughts on this was, in those days, in those that what we call the golden era of Carnatic music, a lot of people, a lot of these senior artists had certain songs and certain ragas attributed to themselves. It was more like their signature piece, and the other artists actually acknowledged it. So, for example, I'll take the same examples that you gave. So, we'll take GNB for example. Shamangudi Srinivasa Iyer said, I will not render the raga Andolika because there is another person to do it. At the same way, GNB respected Shamangudi Srinivasa Iyer for his rendition of Karahara Priya. So all of that was definitely there, and of course, when it comes to ragas like a Brindavana Saranga and things like that, it's always MS Subbulakshmi. So the way she presents it, it's so brilliant, so amazing, so pure, and the passion that they put in, the hard work, it's brutal hard work that has actually gone in to create that kind of a magic that stays on and on for generations, for all of us to relish and enjoy, is something that's amazing. Everyone has a personal side to their lives, that is there, it's good to know. But for us as listeners, as readers, the amount of things that they have given to us and the privilege that we have had to receive and enjoy this, I think, is something that we should always be grateful for. Srimati MS Subbulakshmi and all people who have contributed so much to the musical fraternity. I think this was an amazing review that you have done, and I really like that aspect where you talked about the fine line, the tightrope walk that the author does to make sure that it is only facts and not opinions. I think that is something that's very, very important. Again, as trainers for us, when we give trainings, we should make sure that we stick to facts and not fall into the trap of opinions. So I think that was very, very brilliant. So we have some attendees over here. So if you would like to ask any questions to Mr. Rajendra Kumar, please unmute yourself, or you can even post your questions on the chat window. Okay, so we've got a comment saying that was an amazing insight into the book.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. I guess we don't have any questions. So, anyway, thanks a lot once again for that wonderful review. We will once again meet next month for another book review of our IATD Book Club. So, until then, thanks a lot for joining in. And of course, thanks a lot to you, Mr. Rajendra Kumar, for sharing your beautiful insights and spending your Sunday evening with us. Thank you, everyone,
It's
and
a,
have a
it's a
wonderful
pleasure
evening.
because it's a pleasure talking about music. It's a pleasure talking about books. So one can go on and on. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.